Yo, what's going on, everybody? Good morning. God bless. This is Chris Classic with another Take It On podcast episode. Um, from what I promoted, you guys know the topic, but before that, you guys know that I have to do my plugs. Excuse the background. Like I said, I don't have the proper equipment yet. I'm working on it. If you haven't, all this sound. All right, we're gonna power through it. Anyway, if you haven't already, go to the Take It Home podcast on YouTube and watch my match that happened this weekend. Enjoy it. I had fun. Um, gotta be kidding me. Um, I enjoyed it. Please have fun with it. Enjoy it. We're gonna go with that. Also, June 18th is the next show, Kingdom Come. I'm sorry, that noise is irritating me. It didn't do that this whole time. Uh, but yeah, June 18th, we come back to Hammond, Indiana. Uh, 1 o'clock start time. Doors open at 12:30. $5 for kids, $10 for adults. Let me kill this noise real quick because I'm not gonna talk through this. I'm sorry, y'all. Give me 1 second. All right, we're just gonna power through it. I don't want to take up any more of you guys' time, so it'll cut off eventually. Usually, it does this in the morning, and I didn't want to do a late live because I'm off today. But going back to the show, Kingdom Come, June 18, 2022, Gene Shepherd Community Center. Tickets are $10 for adults, $5 for kids. They're going to have a lot of wrestlers there selling merchandise and everything like that. If you want to support, please do. We are sponsored by Limelight Entertainment Studios. They have done so many shows for us before. Truly grateful for that opportunity. So make sure you guys check it out. Buy tickets, support, and everything like that. You know, we work hard for that. We try to do something in the Midwest. You know, a lot of the wrestling scene is big in the Midwest, but we also try to do things different with different kind of matches and different opponents going against each other, because, you know, I do feel like sometimes it is repetitive. So, like I said, thank you for the guys, the people that are still here fighting through that horrible noise in the back that should be going off any minute, but I do not want to hold you guys tight. So I'm going to cut the mic up. No, that's not going to work. Okay, here we go. Am I loud enough for you guys? Could you fight through that sound? Anyway, welcome to the Take It Home podcast. It is I, Chris Classic. I hope you guys had a great morning, a great night. God bless. I love you. God loves you. This is a new episode, an early episode, because I do want to enjoy my off day, and I do want to play some Mario Kart later today. As the topic goes, what is going too far in wrestling? Now, we're living at a time where more people are very vocal on what offends them. And sometimes companies take accountability for what offends them and things like that. And when I say that, sometimes they don't care about what the people think, but you pander at the same time because you do want viewerships. And then you do know that there's these multi-million-dollar organization charities and stuff like that that may take offense to that. But sometimes you want to flip the script. What's going on, Arshawn? Salute. Sometimes you do a risk. You take a risk. Usually it involves more of the heels on the heel side. What can I do that is different from the other heels? Some people invest in that and some people don't. I don't think that people should just subscribe to a heel is just somebody that just tells people shut up or whatever like that. You have to stand out. You have to be somebody that they remember. Sometimes you work harder than the face because of the story that you're trying to incorporate. So, but sometimes, not just heels, just people in general, just do things that sometimes push a line or break a barrier, if you will. So we're here to talk about what is going too far and what can seem too offensive in wrestling. You know, nowadays everything is viral, and just because it's viral, it does not mean that you did something good. You could have did something bad, and that contributed to you being viral. You being viral also, going to the bad part, you might have prevented that company from going back into that building, or you might have prevented from wrestling coming back into the city, or you might have convinced family or parents or even other any fan to not come back to the event because what you did was unsafe, was risky, or was flat out stupid. Now, some things do not register as being stupid and dumb. Some things, the payoff is worth it. Excuse me about my feedback. You get what I'm saying? But it's harder now to do certain things, but then it's easy if you know how to do it. For example, and I talked to Atlas, and I believe he's listening too. Shout out to Atlas. You know, he talks about how MJF isn't doing anything new, but it comes off as new because not a lot of people are doing it. So I heard of MJF. The first time I heard of MJF, he was viral, ironically. And what happened was it was an autograph signing, and it was a kid who wanted a picture with MJF with his family. So what happened was they were getting ready for the picture, and as soon as the picture was about to snap, MJF gave the kid a middle finger, like straight to his head, like point blank, like headshot, kapow. Yes, I said kapow. And I remember like looking at that, like, oh my God, this dude is crazy. And then I was reading the comments, and then a lot of people were saying, this is what he do, this is what he do, he does this, this is his character and stuff like that. So the more I started looking into him and started looking at his matches and how he is, I was like, okay, well, this is him. You know, this is why people love him, even before he was in AEW and stuff like that. And then the thing is, the kid knew and the parents knew exactly what they were signing up for when they went to get an autograph and get a picture with MJF. So some people are still going to take offense to that. You know, I wouldn't randomly want a man to put a middle finger near my kid or whatever like that. But when you go to a autograph signing with him, expect that. If you're, you know, comedy, if you go to a comedy show, if you're sitting in the front row, 9 times out of 10, they may say something about you or whatever like that. Now, it is up to you on how you handle that. But at the same time, they're probably going to say something about you, especially if you stick out, you know. Going into that, you know, with wrestling, you know, especially with more adult themed shows, you're going to go into something that's going to probably be adult theme. It might be sexual, it might be violent, you might see blood and stuff like that. And with that being, with those kind of aspects, it's just like sometimes you do have to expect the unexpected. But I do think that sometimes the unexpected does go too far. Like yesterday, I'm not going to share the clip. And I'm sure the guy who he did it to, he was aware and was having the time of his life. So there was a guy, he was in a motor wheelchair, and the heel, he picked him up and he put him on the ground. And when he put him on the ground, excuse me for laughing, when he put him on the ground, he rode his power scooter and he went like around the ring, and a lot of people were chanting "a-hole, a-hole, a-hole." Now, this is something that is getting a lot of steam and it's getting a lot of views as well. And no, like I said, I'm sure the guy that was in the wheelchair, he wants to be a part of it. You know, a lot of people want to be a part of the show. It's just things like that you also have to be careful with, because his opponent kicked him out of the chair, whatever like that. And then also the guy who was taken out of the wheelchair was also crawling. And it's just like, it's small things like that that you have to watch out for, because God forbid if something would have happened to him, that would have made the views go more up, whatever, because he was crawling on the floor and he was doing things he wasn't supposed to do. So with that being said, what is going too far? Was that too far? I mean, the guy was a part of the show. He wanted to be a part of the show, but that doesn't mean exactly that you have to do that. Like any spots that involve wrestlers and fans, you got to be careful. Some of these people want money. Some of these people were ready to sue. Some people don't want to work. So it's just like, all right, cool. You have the fan chop a guy and then the guy hits somebody, or, you know, those dive out spots like AEW, right? I love AEW for certain aspects, but every time there's a dive that involves the barricade, it's scary because 9 times out of 10, they're going to hit somebody because the barricades aren't strong. And then even if they have plants in the crowd, usually they're going to fall on somebody. And these are things that you do have to be careful with, because you have people that want to see the show, and then some people just don't want to get hurt. You know, they rather see the wrestlers get hurt. They want to see a good time. You know, if you see if you fall on a woman, that might be it. You know, I'd be a little upset as a wrestler. You know, there was a spot when I first started, my opponent threw me into the barricade and I almost fell on the barricade onto the front row onto somebody's daughter. And then I was like, okay, well, I got to be careful. I got to watch it. I can't like do things like that. You got to be mindful. And I understand fan interaction is a very big thing, but it's like when you try to incorporate them in wrestling matches and stuff like that, you have to go about it a certain way. That way nobody gets hurt. Salute Mike. They got what they paid for. On the other end, will he get hate if they ask for the middle finger? And he said no. And possibly. And this is the thing. It's just like, I haven't been healed much. So I've only been here. It's rare that I've been healed, but I've seen people just literally just go up to somebody and just talk about their family or something like that, but not on no death thing, just saying like how they look and stuff like that. And sometimes fans want to see that, or they getting the fans riled up to say, okay, well, somebody's going to get this guy. Somebody's going to get this guy. And it's not saying that you have to limit yourself in being a heel, but you also want to think outside the box. What will work? What won't work? And it's not even just heel work. It's commentators commentating as well. Like it was a couple weeks ago. I wish I had the clip. I don't have the clip. It was a guy, he was doing commentating. That word is going to butcher me today. On it was a women's match or whatever like that. And then he was talking about the woman. Oh, she's aggressive. She looks aggressive. And I believe he implied like, how would she be in bed or something like that. That's not something that you should be seeing in a wrestling show. And even if you are a colored commentator or whatever like that, that's very inappropriate. You know, Jerry the King Lawler, a lot of people love Lawler and JR, and they say that they're the best duo to ever do it. But, you know, when you think about a lot of the stuff that he said and a lot of the stuff that he did behind the scenes, you definitely don't want to, you definitely would be like, he'd be canceled if he was doing some of the things that he was doing and saying the things that he was saying. You know, he was saying some inappropriate stuff. You know, now I was a kid, right? So looking at women and stuff like that and saying puppies and all of that stuff, that was funny to me. But I was also invested because that's what I like to see. So with that being said, even with commentating and stuff like that, you want to get the crowd into the show. You want the crowd to be invested. What you don't want to do is you don't want to suffocate it with your comedy sometimes and what you say and whatnot. Like even when I watch AEW Dark or whatever like that. So, or even JR when he commentates. Like sometimes they don't hold back. If you mess up, you mess up. They're going to crack a joke. If you don't look like a wrestler, you don't look like a wrestler. Those are things that they're going to say. These are the things because they've been in their business for so long. Hey, this dude messed up and stuff like that. And if they're bored, you're going to tell. When you watch Dark or Dark Elevation and you have Big Show and Mark Henry commentating together, they're not even talking about the match half of the time. They're talking about other things because they aren't getting the wrestling that they feel like they want. And then sometimes that takes away from it. Sometimes I'm listening to them more than actually watching the match, especially with my kids. I'm dealing with something, I'm doing with something and things like that. So sometimes the commentator is supposed to bring the attention back to the show, but if they're not invested, I'm not invested neither. But going back to what that commentator said, oh, I wonder how she'd be in bed. I think it was actually worse than that, to be honest with you. Like I said, I think they deleted the clip or whatever like that, but it was very inappropriate. And it was just like, why would you even say something like that? Like, to be honest with you guys, a lot of wrestlers and a lot of promoters know it's hard to do certain things because a lot of people put us all in the same group. So, okay, some people don't consider backyard or deathmatch wrestling professional wrestling, but the thing is, they put it all together. Most groups, most buildings, most venues, they put all of those together. So if something messes up, somebody get busted open and all the blood gets on the family or whatever like that, that'll go viral. That'll be on the front page of something sometime. People will share that. And then when you try to do a venue or something like that, they'll compare it to that. Like, remember when Nick Gage was brought on to AEW to go against Chris Jericho. And, you know, he was notorious with the pizza cutter. And he was cutting Jericho with the pizza cutter. While they was doing that, they went to a commercial. Of all commercials that played, it was a Domino's commercial. And we laughed because this was funny. But at the same time, Domino's did not, want to be associated with that as if they sponsored that match. Because usually when you do the picture-in-picture, you're usually sponsored by something. But it's like, I don't want to be a part of something that has something to do with pizza if you're busting someone open with the spatula, with the pizza cutter and stuff like that. So these are the things that you have to watch. Like, it is very difficult to get different wrestling venues sometimes because of the things that they see. Oh, when I seen it, such and such was bleeding and stuff like that. I mean, look at ECW, right? ECW was also notorious for doing a lot of things that crossed the line. You guys remember Kurt Angle was actually going to start in ECW, but then when they did the Jesus depiction with the Sandman, he was out. I'm sure he wasn't the only one. And eventually the stuff that they did, a lot of matches, a lot of other companies picked up and they made a diluted version with certain hardcore matches and stuff like that. They're as far as blood is concerned, like if you're going to an ECW show, or if you're going to a GCW show, if you're going to anything that has anything to do with hardcore or backyard or anything like that, you're going to see blood. WWE, they're not trying to do blood. If they do blood, if they do blood, it goes black and white because they want people to continue it, and they don't want to make it seem like it's gruesome because of the sponsorships and stuff that they work with. They don't want that kind of stuff on there. I'm not saying it's too far. Accidents happen or whatever like that. But shoot, AEW, they like, nah, we gonna be cut open. We gonna be bust open because we want to show that this is some of the aspects of wrestling, and it is. So, but going back to the commentating spot. Yeah, usually, you know, you can have a color commentator. You can say some things, some mean things and stuff like that. But then when it goes to worrying about how the person is in bed or certain things, there's some things you cannot do, even if you caught it or not. Let's go to a situation with, let's do one first. I'm going to show my screen on, I know you guys remember, was it last year? Yeah, it was last year. Was a Spanish announcer for AEW. He mocked Hikaru Shida when she was the champ, and a lot of people were talking about it. All right, give me a second. All right, so for this example, right? Shout out to what's this website? WrestlingInc.com. Let me get rid of this. Give me a second, guys. Stuff is loading. Okay, here we go. During the Spanish feed of Friday's AEW Dynamite, announcer Willie Urbina was caught on a hot mic, so he didn't even know, mocking AEW Women's World Champion Hikaru Shida in a racially insensitive tone. According to the social media, Alex Abrahantes asked Urbina to translate Shida's promo for Spanish viewers on Fight TV. As heard in the clip below, Urbina mocked Shida's Japanese accent. I don't think there's audio. I'm not going to play audio. So basically, when they were translated to, he said, do Shida. And then the guy was really speaking some inappropriate. He was mocking her accent, the stereotypical accent. I remember the audio being uploaded, and I was like, oh my God, you can't do that. And then Thunder Rosa, she said, shut up and stuff like that. And then she's like telling him to stop, and she's laughing and stuff like that. And then everybody else is saying, like, stop it. So from the sound bite, it seemed like both of them were uncomfortable with his attempt at the joke. Controversial audio preceded the segment where Tony Schiavone presented Shida a new championship to celebrate her 377-day reign as women's champion. Updated design is mostly similar to the original title, but is slightly larger in size. So, you know, he got in trouble for that. He got in trouble for that. And rightfully so. So, you know, the thing with this, I will say, is that, you know, a lot of people were upset with Thunder Rosa because she said that she was upset with Brock Lesnar's segment when he was feuding with Eddie Guerrero when he came out with the sombrero and the mariachi band and stuff like that. And then you fast forward, and then like she's working with Eddie's widow, Vicky, and you know, Vicky said the green card thing. Now, I don't think AW put the clip on because maybe she said something or whatever like that. But then now, when you have somebody like laughing at Shida, the thing that was positioned towards Shida, that's one thing. Now, don't get me wrong. So I'm not going to spin heavy on Thunder or whatever like that because I like her. She's a very talented wrestler, whatever, and she's breaking barriers or whatever like that. But then it's just like when you're laughing at something like that, you know, trying to say it stop, trying to tell them stop, and you're uncomfortable and stuff like that. You know, that's how some people do take some of these promos or whatever. Sometimes people take it as a grain of salt. With commentating, you have to, you know, I don't know what he was thinking and stuff like that, especially with AEW always promoting that they're all inclusive. They don't try to bully people for what they are, who they are, how they were born and stuff like that. You got to be careful with these kind of things, even with hot mics or anything like that. If a microphone is on you, you have to be professional at all times. You do not know when that feed clicks on, when you have to go live or when you have to promote a commercial and stuff like that. So it was a good call to let him go because that definitely was not it, Chief. That was not it. And then we can go to one guy who's very controversial when he talks about a lot of things. And I am talking about Jim Cornette. I know a lot of people do not listen to him because of how he thinks and how he says things. I will say this. I listen to him from time to time. Some of the stuff that he says is correct, but some of it is not. I do think that his old school way of thinking messes his men up on certain things, because some things are different, like with women's wrestling and stuff like that. And then sometimes I feel like he has like a racial undertone with black female wrestlers at that. But other than that, sometimes what he does say is spot on. It's from SIWrestling.com. It says, this happened about a year ago too. Jim Cornette was from National Wrestling Alliance after making offensive remark on commentary. So let's go into that, because I remember this being a big deal. Brandon, shout out to Brandon. Mike said, oh, I heard that was wild. They should only bring up things like that if it's a part of the show, i.e. like clothing competition. Yeah, stuff like that. Like if it's a part of it, and that's one thing, and hopefully both parties involved are good. All right. Longtime wrestling personality Jim Cornette has resigned from his position as a commentator from the National Wrestling Alliance after he made an offensive remark while calling a match on the episode of NWA Power that aired on Tuesday night. Trevor Murdoch is mad, bad, and dangerous, Cornette said during the match between Murdoch and Nick Aldis. He's the only man that can strap a bucket of fried chicken on his back and ride a motor scooter across Ethiopia. I remember the clip. People said the clip. Wow.
This as seriously as he might should. Trevor Murdoch, he's mad, bad, and dangerous to know. He's the only man I've ever known that can strap a bucket of fried chicken on his back.
Hit off my feet. But this is what Cornette said. So Cornette was a fixture in NWA television in the 80s, contributing behind scenes before becoming an on-screen manager. In his role as manager of the Midnight Express tag team, Cornette made the same comment about Ethiopian fried chicken in 1988. As an announcer on the November 19th in the NWA Power, Jim made remarks during the singles match. And he did resign. Now, with this was deemed offensive, pretty offensive if you ask me. You know, like I said, with Cornette is, he doesn't like to change. I think he's like, whatever came up and how he did with wrestling, that's the law for him. And some things has changed. Now, I'm not saying that everything he says isn't true, but he's just an old, angry, wily wrestling man or whatever like that. But some things he does say is taken too far. And I remember him speaking about this on his podcast on YouTube. And he was like, he didn't think of it as a big deal. He thought that it was, you know, something that he would have said in the 80s. And that right there implies what I'm saying is that the 80s, like he's still thinking about things that's going on in the 80s. You get what I'm saying? So it's like you have to get out of those times because people get offended. Now, I'm not one of those ones that say, oh, well, you're a pansy or you're too sensitive and stuff like that. Because the truth is, people get offended by certain. You get what I'm saying? Some people have different tolerance levels on certain things. People get offended if people get offended. You get what I'm saying? That's a parallel universe right there. So I'm not going to sit here and say like I don't get offended or didn't get offended with certain things. I remember we all remember the build up to WrestleMania. I forgot which one. With Booker T and Triple H, and Booker T was getting ready to go against Triple H for the World Heavyweight title. And then Triple H's promo, which was very cringy, still to this day. Oh, people like you don't deserve to go against people like me. Look at your nappy hair. Why don't you dance for me? Because, you know, Booker T used to do the Spinner Rooney when he even first started before he went to WWE. Why don't you dance for me, Booker? Why don't you dance for me? And, you know, and it angers a lot of people of color with that because this was on TV. Now, WWE, even before that, they're not shy of breaking, of doing this thing, of poking the bear. They're not shy on doing these kind of things, like blackface with ironic DX when they were making fun of the nation and they all had black stuff on them and stuff like that, and they were acting like the guys and stuff like that. There's ways now you can do it without actually doing it. Like when it's Halloween time and you see a Caucasian person wearing blackface to portray a black person, that's still offensive to a lot of people. You don't have to do that. It's not a necessity to look and dress like that. You don't have to do that. That's like highly inappropriate. Yes, Arshawn, fried chicken. It was fried chicken. And he said it. He said this joke before. Now, you saying the joke before does not validate what you said at all. So he, to this day, he does not think that that was a big deal. It was a big statement or anything like that. So when we go to even the racial standpoint of it, there are things that you can say and there are things that you can't say. And there are things that you have to watch out for. You don't want to lose a viewer. You don't want to lose sponsorships. You don't want to lose your TV deal. You don't want to lose your venue. You don't want to lose the money that can go into what you're doing. So now you do have a lot of heels that can do something different without cursing, without hitting somebody, without touching somebody. You know, guys that I've been around, like Steve Red and Atlas and stuff like that. You have a lot of guys that are very good with heel work. There was a guy named Perfection this weekend. Shout out to him, Mike. He does great. And everything you have to work. And sometimes it takes years for people to master that craft or whatever like that. With the thing of a camera and things being viral, a lot of people try to do things because even if it is controversial, it might help them get booked. That is my baby calling me. Yes, baby. Come downstairs. Y'all gonna see my baby crying, my baby calling for me. But I'm gonna continue to live. Yes, baby. Come here, mama. All right. Sorry about that. But anyway, going back to what we're saying, there are certain things that you can do, certain things you can say, that you can carry yourself. You can be controversial without being controversial. Now, I'm not sitting here saying I'm going to sit here and tell you everything that you should and shouldn't do, because like I said, we're all grown. We all know how to conduct ourselves, at least for the most part. There are things that you can push the line on and push a certain edge and everything like that, and it could work. You get what I'm saying? People might see it. MJF, he found his. You have kids that literally go to curse him out or to get cursed out from him because that's what works for him. That might not work for you at the American Legion because you might get kicked out. The company you wrestle for might not wrestle there again and stuff like that. You know, AEW has been known to apologize for certain things for breaking the barrier. Now, remember, Max Caster, right? Max Caster, he made the joke about lacrosse, and he also made the joke about Simone Biles' mental health. Now, I'm going to say two things about that. One with the AEW and two with NWA. These were not, I don't believe to my knowledge that the NWA was a live show. So, but I know for sure that the AEW show was not live. So somebody listened or watched that and edited it, and they decided to put it on a YouTube show. So a lot of people, it gained steam. A lot of people watched it. You know, it got them views before they took it down and re-edited and took it out. And what happened was they, Tony Khan made a statement. I believe he apologized, and he also said that he was going to edit and like look over stuff. Now, it's a shame on Tony's part because he should have been doing that in the first place, but he did not. So now Max got in trouble, and to my knowledge, I don't even think the person who edited or put it together got in trouble for it. But Max got in trouble. Then it was acting like he was done with wrestling, and AEW was going to sell his tights and stuff like that. So with that being said, I just think that was kind of crazy. Even if the NWA one wasn't live, I don't think it was live. I think they did like a premiere. Like, somebody should have been also held accountable for allowing this to even be put on live TV if you guys were going to get offended by it. And this is what I mean when I said earlier, is that you have a lot of people that don't care if it offends people. It's a wait and see. Okay, say the fried chicken joke. Let's see if they bite. And let's see if it works. And if it does work, we'll say it more often. Trust me. Like, you have a lot of people that want to push that barrier. With AEW, a lot of people say it reminds them of the Attitude Era. But I'm like, bruh, the Attitude Era is not coming back. I mean, we can sit here and bring some certain aspects of it, but come on, you're going to get offended by 85% of what happened at the Attitude Era. Nowadays, you can't even say what you wanted to say, what, a year ago. Samaya, come on. Come on, Samaya. But anyway, going back to what I was saying. Hey, y'all give me 1 second, because all right, thank you guys. I'm so sorry. I had no idea my wife was leaving so early. to run some errands, so I had to prescribe some juice, grapes, and some baby bum bum via Pluto TV. Shout out Pluto. But going back to NWA and AEW, the thing about it being pre-recorded, that just shows you how some people want to do. Because let's be honest, some people want to be edgy. Some people want to do something that want to get people attention. You get what I'm saying? Some people, daddy duties, man. Exactly. But thank you guys for staying with me. I truly appreciate it. Also, subscribe to the Take On Podcast. Also, check out the subscribe to the C3 Ultimate Wrestling YouTube. Also, my Twitch at below, and also check out the website www.c3ultimatewrestling.com. Going back into the topic, a lot of people want to push that edge. A lot of people want to be cutting edge and stuff like that. You want to do something either different or something that's going to get you views. Now, with the Attitude Era, and I've said this in the previous video, is that a lot of people say they miss it and they want it and stuff like that. But it's like, do you really want the Attitude Era back in the climate that we're in now? To where everything is like, I don't want to say everybody is very vocal now, because you don't have to just say it at home. You can go to Twitter. You could go to Instagram. You can go to Facebook. You can go to YouTube. You can go to Twitch. You can go to a whole bunch of platforms and you can say, I don't like this and I don't like that. You can also tag the companies, Twitter or Facebook. You can also tag them. And then if it gets a lot of traction, people will turn around and the company apologize, or they'll take a sponsorship for a company or something like that. So it's like, sometimes it is walking on eggshells, and sometimes just make sure you don't say anything inappropriate. Now, WWE, right, being the #1 wrestling company, they had to pull back a lot of their segments. And I remember that a lot of people were upset with that. They didn't like that because that's what they grew up watching, or that's something that was a historic moment for them. As you can see, I'm going to this one to show, because I remember I made a post about it when I first heard about it. And I was like, okay, well, let's see what everybody thinks. I wanted to see what everybody thought about this. Shout out to Variety.com. Okay. Peacock purges racist WWE segments from streaming archive. Now, you guys know that in America, we don't have the network anymore. I'm sad. I actually like the layout of the network better than Peacock, because Peacock, you have to reset streaming issues and it lags. Like, to me, to have the #1 wrestling company and have a lot of popular shows, you should definitely be on your audio and your streaming and everything like that. But I do miss the network. But you guys know that Peacock purchased a lot of money. They purchased a lot of the stuff to promote on their Peacock app and website. Okay, so like I said, if you are a wrestler or in the wrestling world, you'll probably not new to this. Something that was covered. It says, as WWE Network is set to move exclusively to the Peacock streaming services next month, the media company is removing objectionable material from the wrestling franchise's archive. WWE is shutting down WWE Network as a standalone. I had it a cut over. I don't want to read everything. Peacock has begun adding WWE Network content March 18th, and fans since noticed that some older content is missing. Among the deleted scenes, a section of WWE Survivor Series event from November 2005, in which the chairman, Vince McMahon, is shown backstage cheerfully greeting John Cena using the N-word within earshot of co-founded Booker T, who says, "Tell me he just didn't say that." Also cut by Peacock is the WrestleMania 6 match from 1990 between the late Roddy Piper and Bad News Brown, in which Piper, a white performer, appeared in half blackface to take on his black opponent. NBCU edits to the WWE archive programming were first reported by PW Insider. And I believe like it's more stuff, but I'm not 100% sure. But these were like the two things that a lot of people were really upset about. There were some people who, and I hate to say it, I don't want to say it was you know what I'm saying, people color, but a lot of people do look up to Roddy Piper and stuff like that for his heel work and how he acted, the loose cannon thing. A lot of people try to emulate that and stuff like that. But now you fast forward and you realize how offensive that is and how that can be, and you just buying the content. And they said they went through hours of content, and I'm sure they're going to take out more stuff. They're going to take out some stuff, especially in the Attitude Era and stuff like that. But you got to think from wrestling's background. Wrestling's background is always, you know, at first, like besides the circus and stuff, it had a racial undertone to it. You can look at old wrestling promos with Flair and Hogan. Like Hogan was in a program with Tony Atlas, and he called him a brown clown and a brown, you know, and Flair calling him brown boy or black boy and stuff like that. You have a lot of those undertones that was in wrestling back then, and even a little bit before that. Big Cat Ernie Ladd, who was a heel at the time, he would say that when he would wrestle, he'd make sure he'd leave as soon as, because a mob of people be waiting to do something to him, and he's like, I ain't on that type of time. So he's trying to leave and stuff like that. So just because it was an old aspect of wrestling, it doesn't mean that it has to be carried over to this year. Just because it was acceptable back then, it doesn't mean that it has to be acceptable now. If you really, really care for that segment that much, you can buy DVDs. You can pre-record it. You can download it. You can have it on your phone. You can have it on your Apple Watch. You can have it on top of your mind all day. So it's just like those kind of things, those are offensive when you have a white man in half blackface. If he was a quarter blackface or a fourth blackface, it's offensive to many. And some of these companies, they may or may not care. Most of the time, I don't think most of these major companies care, because they just want the money. They just want the dollar at the end of the day. But it is smart that they didn't hear what people thought about it. They just did it because they knew it was offensive. A lot of us to this day, outside of talking about Booker T and Triple H's match where Booker T should have won because of all the stuff that Triple H was doing, a lot of people still bring up that clip of Vince McMahon saying the N-word. He shouldn't have said it in the beginning. Some people stop watching. Some people continue to watch. Some people commentate on it and everything. But yeah, you can say it came a long way, but these are things that you have to be careful with saying now. You know, you can't just say the N-word. So even on the independent scene, you have a lot of people, as I'm a head out soon, you have a lot of people that get upset with certain statements or certain things in matches. Like I said, death matches are like very popular now, more than ever. A lot of people are looking at death matches. A lot of people are doing them. A lot of people, it's on their wrestling bucket list and stuff like that. Those are the things that usually, if something is really, really bad, it goes viral that quick. For example, there was a guy, he was set on fire, and that was everywhere. That was everywhere online and stuff like that. And like I said, a lot of people, especially with the old school or the people who are brought up with that old school mentality, they see that and they know what's going to happen. They know that they might not be able to book at a show and stuff like that. It's all a community thing. And I hate saying it, but it's the truth. Now, you might not care, or you may care, but that is like an important aspect. If WWE says, you know what, we're going to drop F-bombs, we're going to say the N-word, we're going to have a live sex celebration like they had with Edge and Lita and stuff like that, that may shake the whole foundation of wrestling as a whole. You know, that's how much pull WWE has. And I know that AEW is the number 2, and they're still trying to work their way and stuff like that. But, you know, like I said, they're not shy on controversial things and controversial topics at all, because, you know, they do things that are cutting edge, if you want to call it that. Hello, Chris, especially selling promotion. What's going on, Jamie? Shout out to everybody that's on Facebook. I'm like I said, I'm checking it now. But with that being said, a lot of people do want to push and break a barrier. You want to be a different heel. You want to be a different face. How can you do it? You know, my suggestion is go old school with it. And I'm not talking about racial old school. You can look at some stuff. Like I said, Ernie, you can look at a whole bunch of stuff. Look at how these people have pizzazz and stuff like that. Look at how people got under people's skins. You know, if you're in a city that you don't, you know, even if you're in a city that you're from, talk about the local team if they're bad. You know, I live in Indiana, so you go to Chicago, say something about the Bulls or the Bears. Like that's going to get under people's skin and stuff like that. But you can do it different. You don't have to do it like everybody else or whatever like that. But you don't have to do anything that's controversial. Now you do have things that push the line. Like I said, a line stepper, as Charlie Murphy say, an habitual line stepper. You have people that do these kind of things, like MJF, right? That goes into another topic. Dang, man. But anyway, MJF, besides like the middle fingers and cursing fans out and fans cursing him out, I remember they were promoting one MJF, and they were also promoting Dark Side of the Ring with Brian Pillman, his episode. A lot of you guys know that Brian Pillman Jr., his son, wrestles and is signed to AEW. So to get more heel heat, he talked about the city that they were in. He also talked about his mom, called her Methany. Wow. And he also talked about his dad, you know, passing away and stuff like that. Now, some people get offended and some people get upset. Now, death is something that I wouldn't personally play with. That's not my cup of tea, is to mess with death or to get on death or talk about that. Even, you know, I remember Randy caught hell heat when he was feuding with Rey Mysterio that year. Rey Mysterio won the title. And he said, Eddie's not in heaven, he's in hell. Like, man, it took the life out of everybody that was at that event. And they wanted Randy Orton to die. But going back on topic, yeah, death is just one of those things. It's like, you don't have to do it, but I see why people do it. And if the family or the worker is fine with that, you can work with it, but make it worth its while. You get what I'm saying? Don't invest that kind of thing, that kind of aspect, and there's no big payoff at the end, or there's that hill isn't at the top anymore. Like I remember when Natalia's dad, Jim Anvil Neidhart, died. Now, I will say this. I did hate that they always called Natty Brett's niece more than who her father was, but it's WWE, and we kind of know why they did that. But other than that, when he passed away, unfortunately, she was in a feud with Ruby Riott, and Ruby Riott would walk out with like cutouts of her dad and all kind of stuff. And it's like Ruby was not Ruby, who's Soho now. She was not the top person, and this wasn't something that was going to elevate either one of them into the main event spot. And it was cringy at best. It was very, very cringy at parts. Like, wow, like they didn't want to do it. Well, Ruby seemed like she didn't want to do it. You get what I'm saying? And it's like, all right, cool, you're going to get boos and stuff like that. But a lot of us aren't being like, man, you remember that feud that Natalya had with Ruby when Ruby was talking about her father and had a cutout? Man, that was some good booking. And it wasn't. And like I said, even with like MJF, like the way he carries himself as a prick, he's elevating and he's still elevating. And let's be honest, both companies still want this guy. And it works for him and stuff like that because it helped him and it's helping him and stuff like that. He's not like on a plateau. He's not just staying on the same level. He's elevating. With Natalya and Ruby, now Soho, we knew that wasn't going anywhere. Charlotte and Paige, when they were feuding for the was it the Divas title at the time? I believe it, the Divas title, right? They were feuding with each other, and then they were saying that like they wanted to bring up Charlotte's brother who passed away, and it was awkward for people because many of us in the wrestling world, we might have known who she was talking about, who Paige was talking about, but fans didn't, you know, because a lot of people might have not known who he was and how he was a prodigy just like his sister was. And I remember that it was so cringy that both parties involved, Paige and Charlotte, they talked about it because a lot of people didn't know what the heck was going on. Like, who was this person and stuff like that? You had tears and you had all of this stuff. And it was just like, what is this? What is that? So death is something that people will use, and I don't think will stop being used as far as the storyline is concerned. You know, if Cody Hall, if not already, you know, isn't in a storyline with somebody, if somebody wants heel heat, they might bring up, you know who, you might bring up that kind of stuff, you know. With wrestling, nothing is really off limits when they do something. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And sometimes things that they've done, it doesn't stick. Like, we literally had Vince McMahon and Shane versus Shawn Michaels versus God. Now, as a believer, and as an avid believer, and as a deacon, as a church, it was trash. I don't think it did anything for nobody. Especially, I believe Spirit Squad had to help them anyway. So it was 2-on-1, and Vince was in good shape at the time, but Spirit Squad had to help. So, but at the same time, I can talk about it. I could be offensive. It could be offensive. A lot of things, people's sexuality, all of this stuff. A lot of stuff could be used as a thing to get heel heat. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's not as successful. Sometimes it's a dud or whatever like that. But me, I'm on the subscription of I don't have to watch it. I don't have to post about it. I don't have to be like, don't watch this because of this and that. I'm not on that because most people who watch these things, they know that it can be offensive sometimes. You can cut it off. You can mute it. You can change the channel. You can play with your kids. You can play with your PS5 if you bought one. You can play with your Xbox One. You can play with your Game Boy. You can play with your Game Boy Advance. That's just one of those things to where I don't. My baby. Somebody, I'm downstairs. She'll be back. But going with that, a lot of people, man, I don't want to go too deep in it. I'd rather probably talk to Arshawn about certain things about individual versus being in a group because he had a good cast about it. Shout out to him, Arshawn. Make sure you guys follow him on Twitch. He had a good topic about it. But with wrestling, it's also the same thing sometimes. You should like this because I like this, or you should like this because they're booking younger stars. You should like this because the wrestling is real, or you should like this because kids like this, or it's the popular thing to like. But we are living at a time where it is definitely, you have to watch what you say because people can get offended by anything. Speaking of something that was like a couple, 5, 6 years ago, 5, 6, 7 years ago. No problem, bro. No problem, man. You had a good topic, man. You had a lot of informational stuff too. Appreciate that. But going into that, y'all remember Zeb Coulter and Jack Swagger, aka Dutch Mantel, and Jake Hager? Y'all remember that when they were feuding with Alberto Del Rio and Ricardo Rodriguez? Y'all remember that? And y'all remember some of the things that Zeb Dutch was saying? He's sneaking across the border and stuff like that. That's stuff that probably wouldn't fly today. It wouldn't fly today. But then it might fly today because what I'm hearing from the Control Your Narrative Wrestling Show, they're doing a lot of controversial stuff, and some of it's working more than it's not working. But you think like WWE would like be cool with that? Do you think that like the subscribers and stuff like that, you don't think that they would say something about him saying that about a Hispanic? And then the ironic thing about the whole thing was there was an inappropriate joke said to Alberto Del Rio, and he slapped the person, and then he wound up leaving, and then he came back or whatever like that. I don't remember if that was before, or I don't know if Zeb was before or after that. I want to say Zeb was before the situation. But like I said, that was some edgy stuff. It'll be real edgy now. You get what I'm saying? Like sneaking across the border. Did you come here this way? Did you come here that way? You know, it could be edgy only because it was on WWE, right? And like I said, WWE tried to be more group and family oriented. But if it was something in AEW, it'd have been cool because, like I said, Thunder Rosa, when she won the title, she's in a program with Nyla Rose and Vicky, and Vicky said something about a green card or whatever like that. So, you know, don't really think that like it made people turn people off from watching it. It was just that a lot of people know that AEW is trying to be edgy and stuff like that, you know, and they still have potential to grow because a lot of people stop watching because of the Attitude Era. But I'm like, when you think about the Attitude Era, it wouldn't be the Attitude Era. It'd be so diluted that you wouldn't get what you want or whatever like that. It'll be like this to me. DX used to do some raunchy and crazy stuff back in the day, right? Sexual stuff, spraying water and telling women to take their top off and stuff like that. They had that kind of stuff going on. And then you remember it was 5, 6 people And then all of a sudden, Shawn Michaels, who became a Christian, teamed with Triple H, and they were DX. Just two people were DX until Hornswoggle came. So remember that? Like, and it was different because Michaels was not doing sexual stuff like the hot dog situation. Like Triple H told Shawn Michaels to go to the truck, and then like they did like a skit with Candice Michelle and stuff like that. And it was funny, but at the same time, it was like it wasn't the same because there was no Billy Gunn, there was no Road Dogg, there was no X-Pac, there was no China. And then they put in Hornswoggle, and then they had like it was so cartoony, it wasn't even taken serious. I'm sorry, I'm texting my way. But anyway, it was cartoony. You know, they had like Little People's Court. Literally, you had Triple H and Shawn Michaels in Little People's Court and stuff like that. And then you could tell they couldn't do the certain things that they used to do. Now they were spray painting DX or digitizing it on the Connecticut headquarters, on Vince McMahon's jet and stuff like that. They were putting some people over and stuff like that. They were still doing the crotch chops, but other than that, it was still the same. It was different. It was diluted. So it's like, do you want a different version of the Attitude Era, or do you want the clear-cut version of the Attitude Era? Now, to be fair, you do have a lot of independent companies that do it on YouTube or whatever like that. They do their own thing. They're not sponsored by anybody. They don't have to worry about pushing the line, pushing the edge. You do have a lot of people that do that. So if you do want something that's close to an Attitude Era content, I do think that that would be a good job. I think that would looking at the independent. Shout out the whole kind of. Yep, that's another one. You know, and even how they were using these guys, was crazy, right? And then the choppy your pee, like, and I understand that they were Oriental or whatever like that, but at the same time, like, I'm sure they didn't talk like that. Y'all wanted them to talk like that. That's an angle that could have been deemed offensive. They were doing with Kai and Tai, when Taka and Funaki, they were talking. They were talking, and then they were using like the Japanese subtitles or whatever like that. Well, they were speaking in Japanese, but they were using English subtitles, like somebody was voicing them over as they were talking. And it was horrible, but it was funny at the same time. But now I don't think that kind of stuff. It'll be entertaining. Like I said, you might see stuff similar to that on maybe AEW or something like that. But I do think that WWE will be like more careful on that certain situation or whatever like that. But like I said, with YouTube or Twitch, those are good platforms to where some people aren't financially backed or sponsored by multi-million and multi-billion-dollar companies, and you may get a hit of great wrestling and X-rated whatever stuff that you want to see. You know, like I said, I don't think that the Attitude Era was the greatest was the greatest era of wrestling. It was the most popular, and there's a difference. And then also another thing about the Attitude Era was it got popular because WCW got bad, not because their product got better. And I stand on that hill, I truly believe that. The Mexicools, good one. That's a good one. If you look at the Mexicools, right? These guys were on riding lawnmowers with Dickies on, full body suits and stuff like that. Some of these guys were notorious in Mexico and WCW's cruiserweight division. And you had these guys coming out there and they were doing it. Now, let me say this though, since we're talking about the Mexicools, there's one thing about being offensive to the culture and people being in the culture. For example, with Eddie Guerrero, with the Lowrider and Latino Heat and stuff like that. That was dope because that was a part of the culture and stuff like that. Not even just them. A lot of people were motivated and inspired by that. You know, I didn't take it as, oh, okay, they're talking about he's a Latino man that steals or anything like that. That stealing part is a part of like what his character was, but not exactly what a Latino does or whatever like that. A lot of people to this day miss Eddie because of the stuff that he did and he put on. That's one thing. But Mexicools, that's another. Crime Time, kind of another too. You know, I enjoyed Crime Time. I felt that they should have won the tag titles a couple times. I know that they split them up, and you know, Shad and he was released first, and then JTG was holding on like a small ponytail holder to a ponytail with no ponytail. But yeah, we enjoyed it, but it was questionable, and it was like, oh, okay. And then like John Cena came with a rap gimmick and stuff, and then you thought that they were going to work together, but then they decided not to have them work together or whatnot. So yeah, it's different now. Like you can't even do some of the storylines that was in the Ruthless Aggression era. So when you try to say, oh, okay, we want the Attitude Era back, I'm like, it will not be the same. If anything, it'll be a cash grab. If you want the Attitude better, okay, that was after. What's good, Will? Salt to Will. What up, Steve? What up, man? But regardless, you're not going to get an Attitude Era unless it's from another company. Now with AEW, I mean, we can sit here and say they do Attitude Era stuff. You get street fights every week. You get cage matches every month. You get a Texas death match every 3 months. Everybody says SHIT. Everybody says BITCH. And it's like eventually you guys are going to get sick of that unless you really just want sick of WWE's product. And that's how a lot of people are. Is a lot of people are just sick of WWE's product and they just want them to do something different, roll over and die, or just promote more wrestling. And that's the thing. If you want the Attitude Era back, and then you also want more wrestling, you know, Attitude Era wasn't based off of wrestling. It was based more off the character. And I said this in the previous live. Like, Stone Cold Steve Austin was actually a great worker. When he was a ringmaster, when he was Stunning Steve and the Hollywood Blondes with Brian Pillman, he was a great worker and stuff like that. He felt that, you know, he was held back. He felt like they were holding back his potential. But then when he went to WWE and eventually had the character Stone Cold Steve Austin, a lot of his moveset changed. He was a brawler. He only had like 5 moves: punch, that elbow drop, mud hole stomp, stunner, middle finger. And I think I might have said middle finger twice. But he winds up being one of the most popular wrestlers of all time. So it's like, okay, I get what you want to say. You want to be edgy. You know, Undertaker's my favorite wrestler, right? So to see him sacrificing people and hanging people on the tees and stuff like that, that was crazy. I don't think they would do that again. But to me, that was crazy. And I look back at that as far as being a believer and like, oh my God, like, man, I really was watching this and didn't have a problem with this because I was a kid or whatever like that. I didn't know. But nowadays, everybody's offended by all. And I'm not saying that as a bad thing because people have limits. You know, it doesn't mean that they're a sensitive fruitcake or it's a sensitive cupcake. You know, like I said, some people show you who they are. And it's just like, you know, you can either get mad about it or you can move about it. Not if I saw it on Facebook. Yeah. Ministry of Darkness. Yeah, that's what I just pulled up. But yeah, it's just a lot of things that people want to bring back, but then it's just like you could also damage the company with the statement. It depends on who you are and your position. Everybody talks about Michael P.S. Hayes saying the N-word or whatever like that. Not everybody. You know, I still say it to this point. A lot of people was offended. I believe MVP was offended when he said it, and then Mark Henry wasn't and stuff like that. And it's just like people have limits to what they get offended by. You know, MVP wasn't offended, but Mark Henry wasn't, you know. And what else? It's another one. Like, it's just a lot of things that when you try to talk to people about certain things, some people don't get offended by certain just because you're offended by it. Some don't, you know. Me, I'd probably be like, you know, you probably shouldn't be saying that. But at the same time, he might have been saying it for a long time. You have a lot of people that are like that are stuck in their ways, like a Cornette who's always stuck in his ways, and I don't think he's ever going to change or whatever like that. Steve says it wasn't even like one culture because if you were in the city or hood, you saw that with the Eddie gimmick. That's true, and that's what I'm saying about, you know, Eddie wasn't a stereotype. He was not a stereotype with what he did. He also says Crime Time was like, but it evolved at times. Yeah, it did, because they were entertaining and they made the best out of what that is. You have people that probably wouldn't even want to be that character or carry that as also being a black man. Big Boss Man with Al Snow killing his dog and dragging Big Show's father's coffin. Yep, I talked about that too. And I said that in the last video about sports entertainment. You know, you can't kill a dog, or you can't say that on TV. People love dogs. They love dogs more than black people sometimes. But anyway, you can't kill a dog, or the coffin thing. Like, some things are going too far. Like WWE, they have so many sponsors and sponsorships that they're not trying to mess up their money. They're not trying to lose these sponsorships and stuff like that. That's why you don't see blood and stuff. And that's why sometimes their matches come off as extra corny, because they don't want to have a gruesome injury and stuff like that. Daniel Bryan, he talked to Vince and he said that he probably would have stayed or thought about staying a little longer if he can bleed. And Vince told him that he didn't want that. You know, they don't want that. They don't want that image of a bloody person, let alone a woman. So like, you see Britt Baker, you see Thunder Rosa, they're doing things and they're bleeding and they're doing stuff like that. And cool. Some people like that and some people think it's dope or whatever like that. But at the same time, that's not what WWE is trying to do. Not validating it, not saying that's a good thing, but at the same time, they want it to be like an act. What did Kevin say? He said it's more like acting and wrestling and everything. And it's like a soap opera. Vince said it himself when he introduced the Attitude Era, which everybody wants back. Well, a lot of people want back. It's just, I mean, we could go on all day about that situation. It's just, make sure that what you do, make sure people remember it. You know, it's okay with being edgy, but you're going to have to prepare that people will be offended by anything. And that could be a good thing and that could be a bad thing. Sometimes you have to fight for things, man. Sometimes, you know, it's okay to share your opinion on a situation. And that's okay. It's no big deal. You don't have to watch it. Sometimes people want to talk about it. So that is why ECW was successful. ECW was successful at one point. But we got to realize that financially they were sinking. And what they were doing, a lot of people started emulating it a little bit more. Because even before ECW, there was always like chair matches and all kind of wild stuff. But blood was like something that was only certain thing. I remember, I forgot, was it Dusty or Dustin? One of the roads, they got in trouble for bleeding and they got fired because it was some kind of hog pin match, but they was like fighting on a trailer or something like that. But yeah, eventually, you know, ECW stuff, it was a specialty, you know, it was a specialty thing, you know. Eventually they had to change it up and they had to get sponsors and stuff. And unfortunately, they couldn't get none. We have people falling off of scaffolds and people stabbing people and falling on people and stuff like that. Eventually, it just got old and tired. That's why you have to be careful trying to do these special matches and stuff. That's why that's what I don't like about AEW sometimes, is that almost every month there's like a street fight or there's a table match or there's something like that. Like that match, the Hardys and the Butcher and the Blade, it wasn't that special. Like, we just seen Hardy go through a table the week before, putting a Private Party through a table. So it's like, if you continue to do the same thing over and over and over, it might not work. With WWE has been the focal point for the longest, that they don't have competition, to the point that they got lazy, or they got writers that have nothing to do with wrestling. I remember that lady, that woman, she went online and said she knew nothing about wrestling, and they hired her. And when they found out, they fired her because, you know, they made the company look bad. It is what it is, yo. Like, hopefully they change. Like I said, from what I'm hearing and what I'm seeing, some things have changed for the good for WWE. Some things are still the same. But like I said, it was a great WrestleMania. So hopefully they have call-ups now. They're pushing certain people. Gunther's up there now. You have a lot of things. So we'll see where it goes from here. I'd rather see more wrestling than corny stuff. But who knows? Maybe that's what's making them number one. You know, I'm not looking at the books. I'm not one of them ones who look at what they do in a demographic at every hour or nothing like that. That's just not me. I refuse to do that. I got stuff I gotta do. I got things I got things I'm trying to do. You know what I'm saying? I got things I gotta promote. Stuff I gotta share and show everybody, you know, like this show right here. Like this show right here. Camera messed up. Show right here. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what I'm trying to do. You know what I'm saying? You get edgy stuff, but you don't get stuff that's inappropriate. You get family-oriented entertainment. Now, like I said, you have other companies that do things more adult themes and stuff like that. But this is not what I want to do. I want to try to put more of a family-friendly thing. Let's do something for the family. You know, a lot of people go to carnivals and fairs and basketball games, sports outings, pumpkin patches, a lot of things. I'm just trying to do things with wrestling. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to bring the family together, give something to do. You know, I'm telling you, man, these wrestling shows are once in a lifetime. So that's one thing that I'm trying to do, you know, with blood and stuff like that. I try to steer from it, but accidents happen or whatever like that. If it's called for, it's something that we may do or might look into or whatever like that. But, you know, with blood, you got to clean up stuff. You got to clean up gear. You got to do a whole bunch of stuff. So I don't know about that. So I think I'm going to head out before my daughter calls again. She will call. So like I said, let me wrap this up. So like I said, people want to be different, and that's cool. That's all right. Like, it's okay to try to be different and stuff like that. You can be different without being inappropriate and stuff like that. And sometimes it's going to be a risk doing what you do. You get what I'm saying? It's going to be a risk. Okay, maybe I should say this or maybe I should say that. But like, if you see something not working and you try to make it work, go for it. But also, it is good to take into consideration, because sometimes we just trying to do something. We are trying to make it. We are trying to get money. We are trying to get paid. We are trying to go viral and stuff like that. But, you know, it's a risk. It's a risk to do anything in this world, because everybody gets offended by everything. And I'm not saying that as a good thing, and I'm also not saying it as a bad thing, but it definitely is a thing. So, like I said, study, look at wrestling, look at some of this old school stuff, not the brown clown stuff. Look at some of this stuff. Look at MJF. Look at current things. Look at how Cody Rhodes talk. Look at how they talk and stuff like that. Look how MJF can get under somebody's skin with a few curse words and stuff like that. And that's it. But you can do it differently. You can, but be advised that there are risks, especially when sponsors are involved, or you're trying to do a TV deal or something. You know, I'm trying to do big things too with my wrestling company as well. And I have to make sure that everything is good. I have to make sure the wrestlers don't follow nobody. There's no cursing. There's no bleeding. There's no accidents. Insurance is involved. You got to make sure everything, you can be professional and edgy at the same time. And that's it. That's the message right there. You can be professional and edgy at the same time. Quality show for a great price. Thank you. Appreciate that. I appreciate the love. We trying our best. We trying to do some big things. I appreciate everybody who has commented. I appreciate everybody who has liked it, shared it, commented. Like that, it warms my heart, because like I've been trying to go live. I've been trying to have a podcast for the longest, and I'm thankful that a lot of y'all rock with me. Y'all don't have to. A lot of y'all working. A lot of y'all on the way to work. A lot of y'all have a lot of businesses that y'all want to do. I'm going to eventually start putting guests on, because a lot of people have things to say, and a lot of these people I kick it with and I trust and everything like that. Before I head out, salute to everybody. Have a good day. God bless. Make sure you subscribe to the Take It Home podcast on YouTube. Also, make sure you subscribe to C3 Ultimate Wrestling. That's on YouTube as well. Make sure you follow the Twitch, Classic 425. I'm still trying to figure out how to do Twitch. That was my baby. How to do Twitch. I'm still trying to figure it out. So if somebody can help me, hit me up in the chat. Also, check out c3ultimatewrestling.com. I have a lot of editing that I have to do on the site for the show and for everything else. Like I said, you guys have a great day. This is Chris Classic. Let's take it home.